Mr. True Crime.
17 years old, a bright future ahead, a small town where nothing ever happens, until one summer evening changed everything. When Lisa Holmes vanished without a trace, an entire country held its breath. What started as a simple missing persons case quickly spiraled into one of Sweden's most shocking crimes. A case so disturbing that it shook the nation to its core. In a small cafe at the edge of town, 17-year-old Lisa Holmes was finishing her shift. It was her first summer job, and she took pride in wiping down tables, stacking chairs, and chatting with her co-workers as they locked up for the night. The cafe was a cozy spot, familiar and welcoming, where she felt completely at ease. She was in a good mood. It had been a busy shift, but she didn't mind. This was an important day for her, the first time she would drive home alone on her scooter. Her father had followed behind her for weeks, ensuring she was safe on the road, but today she had finally convinced him to let her go alone. It was a small step toward the independence she had been longing for. At 6:23 p.m., Lisa texted her father, "I'm leaving work now." She was excited. It wasn't just about getting home, it was about proving to herself that she could handle this responsibility. She had always been mature, careful, and ready for the freedom of growing up. She was on her way. Everything was fine. Then, just 3 minutes later, his phone rang. It was Lisa. He smiled as he answered, expecting to hear her voice. But when he picked up, there was only silence. Then, muffled voices. And suddenly, a car door slammed shut. A cold chill ran through him. "Lisa! Lisa!" he called out, trying to make sense of the silence. But there was no reply, only a faint hum on the other end. Then the line went dead. A battle of thoughts ran through his mind. An accident? A lost signal? Was it just a mistake? Then, muffled voices, a car door slamming. Something was wrong. He hoped she would be home any moment. But Lisa never came. Lisa Holmes had a way of leaving a mark, not with loud words or grand gestures, but with the quiet strength of her kindness. She was the kind of person who made the world feel lighter, who worked hard, not because she had to, but because she believed in chasing her dreams. With an easy smile and a determined heart, she moved through life with a purpose, never realizing how many people she inspired. Born on February 7, 1998, in Hökerum, Sweden, Lisa grew up in a small, close-knit town where life was peaceful and familiar. She was surrounded by love, her parents, her older sister, and a home where she always felt safe. Her father, ever protective, made sure of that. Even from a young age, she was ambitious. She had a clear vision for her future. She wanted to become an architect and had set her sights on studying in Australia. She loved the idea of traveling, experiencing new cultures, and making a difference through her work. She wasn't just daydreaming, she was actively working toward her goals. She took on part-time jobs to save money, showing a level of responsibility and independence that was rare for someone her age. In the summer of 2015, Lisa landed her first real job at a cafe in Blomberg, a 40-minute drive from home. The distance didn't bother her. It was a step toward adulthood. At first, her father drove her daily, always putting her safety first. Since she wasn't old enough to drive a car, her parents bought her a scooter, her first real taste of freedom. She was thrilled, but her father wasn't ready to let go. For weeks he followed behind her, watching over her, making sure she was safe. On June 7, 2015, her father finally let her drive alone. Lisa was ready, careful, responsible, and excited to prove herself. It was supposed to be a simple ride home, just like any other night, but the world was not ready to be kind to her. Her father had always made it his mission to keep her safe, to shield her from harm, and to ensure she was never alone. Letting her drive home that night wasn't just a step for Lisa. It was a test of his trust. On June 7, 2015, he finally let go. It was time to let her do this on her own. That afternoon, Lisa's parents stopped by the cafe for lunch. They didn't do this often, but something told them it was a good day to check in, without making it obvious. As they watched, she moved through the cafe easily, taking orders, greeting customers, and smiling as always. She looked happy, entirely at ease. The cafe was busy, so Lisa could only spare a short break to sit with them. They didn't mind. Even a few minutes with their daughter was enough. They talked, laughed, and then said their goodbyes as she returned to work. Everything felt normal. Nothing seemed wrong. When they left, they saw her one last time, moving behind the counter, focused and safe in her routine. They had no idea it would be the last time they would see her like that. Hours passed, then came the waiting, the unanswered calls, and the growing sense that something was wrong. At first, Lisa's parents weren't too worried. They thought maybe she had stopped to chat with a friend or gone back inside the cafe to grab something she had forgotten. She was usually on time, so there had to be a simple explanation. They called her phone, no answer. They tried again, straight to voicemail. Her father told himself she had just lost track of time or that her phone battery had died. But as the minutes passed, a feeling of unease crept in. He couldn't sit still any longer. Grabbing his keys, he rushed out the door, pushing aside the growing fear in his chest. Worried, he went looking for her himself. He drove slowly, scanning the dark roads for any sign of her scooter. A flood of thoughts raced through his mind. Had she taken a different route home? Had she stopped to talk to someone? Was she just running late? But there was no sign of her. Then he reached the cafe. He looked everywhere, searching desperately, hoping she would be there, waiting for him. Instead, his heart sank. Lisa's scooter was still there, parked precisely where she had left it. The keys were still in the ignition. It hadn't moved. She would never have left her scooter like that. Never. He jumped out of the car, calling her name, hoping she would step out, maybe even laughing at how worried he was. But there was only silence. He checked inside the cafe. Empty. He searched around the building, but she was nowhere to be found. It didn't take long for Lisa's father to realize something was wrong. He called Lisa's mother, hoping she had heard from her. To his surprise, she hadn't. Panic set in. Desperate for answers, her mother contacted the cafe owner, but she was just as confused. The owner also arrived with her friends, and they began searching every corner of the cafe, the parking lot, and the nearby roads. Theories raced through everyone's minds. Had her scooter broken down? Had she decided to take the bus instead? It was a long shot, but they checked the schedule anyway. Lisa's mother and sister arrived next, driving from bus stop to bus stop, scanning every waiting passenger. With every stop, their desperation grew. They checked faces, hoping, praying, to see Lisa standing there, waiting for a ride home, but each time they were met with disappointment. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. By 10 p.m., she had been missing for over 3 hours. The fear her parents had been trying to push away was now impossible to ignore. Something was terribly wrong. They had searched everywhere, asking friends, checking the roads, and calling anyone who might have seen her. But Lisa was nowhere. With no other options left, they had to call the police. Word spread quickly. Lisa Holmes was missing. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers jumped in to help. What started as a small search effort grew by the hour. Within moments, people grabbed flashlights and headed out, walking along roads, searching through fields, and combing the dense forests surrounding the cafe. By midnight, the town of Blomberg was no longer the quiet, peaceful place it had been that morning. Calls for assistance spread across social media, and news outlets picked up the story. Soon, Lisa's disappearance became a national concern. Volunteers came from all over Sweden, some traveling for hours, determined to help bring her home. By June 9, 2015, over 1,000 people had gathered, forming one of the largest search operations in Sweden's history. Helicopters flew overhead, search dogs sniffed through the underbrush, and the police organized teams to cover every inch of land near the cafe systematically. Hope still burned bright. No one wanted to believe the worst. Lisa was out there somewhere, they just had to find her. But soon, hope turned into horror. As the search intensified, disturbing details began to emerge. A woman came forward with a story that sent chills down investigators' spines. The day before Lisa's disappearance, she had gone for a jog near the cafe when a man standing next to his car stopped her in the middle of the road. He spoke only English and asked for directions to a city she had never heard of. Trying to help, she pulled up Google Maps, but then he made a strange request. He wanted her to get into his car and show him the route on his navigator. Something about him felt off. She refused and quickly continued running. The first clue in the search for Lisa Holmes was a single motorcycle glove found on the floor of a barn near the cafe. A worker discovered it and immediately contacted the police. When Lisa's parents saw the glove, they confirmed it belonged to her. This discovery raised alarm, but it was only the beginning. As volunteers expanded their search, more of Lisa's belongings started to appear along a dirt road near the cafe. First, they found her phone case, a receipt, a ticket, and a smashed smartphone screen. Police quickly confirmed that all these items belonged to Lisa, and it became clear that someone had likely thrown them from a moving car. This led authorities to focus their search in that area, hoping to uncover more evidence. Soon after, additional belongings were found along the same road, including more pieces of her broken phone, her ID, and several more receipts. Each discovery deepened the growing fear that Lisa hadn't simply gone missing, she had been taken. Meanwhile, Lisa's father and his friends refused to give up. The morning after her disappearance, they retraced the path where her belongings had been found, hoping to uncover more clues. It now seemed clear. Lisa had been taken along this road while her abductor tossed her belongings out of the moving car. The police and volunteers focused all their efforts on this area, searching tirelessly, but no further items were found until later that evening. On his way home from the search, a friend of Lisa's father noticed something strange. The police tape around the barn where Lisa's glove had been found had been removed. Something didn't sit right with him. He pulled over, grabbed a flashlight, and took one last look inside. As he walked around the darkened barn, his light caught something shiny on the floor. When he looked closer, he saw it. A woman's earring. Then another one nearby. He immediately reported the find to the police. Lisa's parents were shown the earrings and confirmed they belonged to their daughter. Realizing they may have missed crucial evidence, the police again sealed off the barn and conducted a more thorough search. The lead investigator later admitted that in the first hours of Lisa's disappearance, their main focus had been finding Lisa herself, not processing the barn as a crime scene. Small items like earrings could have easily been overlooked in the initial search. But this time, they brought in forensic experts and search dogs, determined to find anything that could lead them to Lisa's killer. And deep inside the barn, they did. As the search continued, authorities expanded the search area on June 12, 2015, sending volunteers farther from the cafe. This led them to a large farm complex located about 2 miles away. The farm had several large buildings, with many workers coming and going, and the search team decided to inspect them all. Shortly after they arrived, 2 men approached. They did not speak Swedish, communicating only in English. One insisted that the police had already searched this farm, implying there was no reason for the volunteers to be there. But the search team leader hesitated. If the police had already been through, he would have known about it. Something didn't feel right. The 2 men lingered for a while, watching the volunteers as they worked. Then, without another word, they got into a car and drove away. An hour later, the search team found something. Behind a cowshed, hidden beneath a pile of branches, they uncovered a motorcycle helmet, a jacket, and headphones. These were immediately confirmed as Lisa's belongings. The police immediately arrived at the scene, and forensic experts were sent in to thoroughly examine the farm. Detectives were also briefed on the 2 mysterious men who had tried to dissuade the volunteers from searching the area. Something about their behavior raised alarm bells. Then joggers had already informed the police of these men. Now the pieces were coming together. From the first days of the search, investigators had already visited all the homes near the cafe. In one house, they had encountered 2 brothers from Lithuania living there with the wife of one of them. None of them spoke Swedish, they only communicated in English. They were the only ones within miles who didn't speak the local language, but that wasn't the only thing connecting them to Lisa's disappearance. The brothers worked in the barn across the road from the cafe, the same barn where Lisa's glove and earrings had been found. They also worked at the very farm where Lisa's helmet was discovered. And the dirt road where Lisa's belongings had been scattered. It led straight to their house. The police now had their prime suspects. The police decided to question 3 people, 2 Lithuanian brothers and the wife of one of them. Meanwhile, forensic experts arrived at the farm, determined to search every inch of the property. Then something caught their attention. An old rusted trailer sat at the edge of the farm, hidden by tall grass. It looked abandoned, untouched for years. But something was off. The grass near the door was flattened as if someone had been there recently. Some blades were caught under the door, showing it had been opened and closed. The forensic team moved in. As they pushed the door open, a strong, awful smell filled the air, the unmistakable stench of death. The trailer had once been a changing room for workers, but now it was filthy and abandoned. Almost all the lockers were shut tight, except for one. The experts began opening them one by one. Then they saw the item in the locker that had been left slightly open. Their worst fear became a reality. It was Lisa, stuffed inside, hidden under old clothes and rags. The space was small, yet the killer had forced her body inside. A rope was still wrapped around her neck. Tape covered her head. Her pants had been pulled down, her shirt had been pulled up. At first, it looked like the worst had happened, but when medical experts examined her, they confirmed that Lisa had been strangled. Yet there were no signs of sexual assault. Her clothing was sent to the lab for testing. When news of Lisa's murder spread, Sweden was in shock. Crimes like this were extremely rare. The sudden disappearance, the scattered belongings, and the horrifying way she was found left the entire nation grieving and enraged. Then, something even stranger happened. On the same day Lisa's body was found, people on YouTube discovered a disturbing video. It had been uploaded 13 days before her murder. The title was 13, and the video showed a countdown timer. But the most chilling part, the name of the channel that had posted it, Lisa Holmes. The video spread quickly, fueling fear and conspiracy theories. Some thought it was a warning. Others believed it was a message from the killer. But the truth was much simpler and more disgusting. Someone had renamed an old channel and changed the title after Lisa's death just to get attention or play a cruel joke. With prime suspects in custody, the investigation moved quickly. With Lisa's body found, the police zeroed in on one man, Nerijus Bilevicius, a Lithuanian farm worker who had been working near the cafe. At first glance, Nerijus seemed like any other worker. He lived with his younger brother and wife in a farmhouse near where Lisa's belongings had been found. But then came the evidence, undeniable, horrifying, and everywhere. His DNA was inside Lisa's underwear. It was on the rope that strangled her. It was on her jacket, her clothes, her body. There was no other explanation. He had been with her in those final moments, and then the most disturbing discovery of all. His semen had been found 15 separate times in the barn across from the cafe. The very place where Lisa had worked. The same place where he had been watching, waiting, plotting. Investigators realized the horrifying truth. Nerijus had been stalking Lisa for days, maybe even weeks. He had been watching her, memorizing her routine, waiting for the perfect moment. And on June 7, 2015, he found it. Lisa was finally alone. And he struck. A cold-blooded predator, but Nerijus wasn't the only one under suspicion. Investigators also detained two other suspects, his younger brother and a woman believed to be his wife. Swedish media reported that the men were brothers, while the woman was arrested for harboring a criminal. Forensic teams worked tirelessly, performing detailed tests on Lisa's body. The case shook Sweden to its core, capturing national attention like few cases ever had. The grief was overwhelming. A memorial service was held in Lisa's hometown, drawing hundreds of mourners. Friends, teachers, and classmates gathered at St. Helena Church in Skövde, lighting candles and laying flowers in her memory. Many of her peers sobbed openly as they mourned a life stolen too soon. Even police officers, hardened professionals who had seen tragedy before, broke down. Some were seen shaking and crying behind buildings, while a police dog handler buried his face into his dog's fur, overwhelmed by the emotions of the case. Nerijus Bilevicius was arrested, but he denied everything. He insisted that he had nothing to do with Lisa's murder, claiming the police had the wrong man. He showed no remorse, no fear, just cold denial. His wife and younger brother backed him up, both providing alibis. They swore that on the night of Lisa's disappearance, Nerijus had been at home, asleep, and that there was no way he could have been involved. They stuck to their story, refusing to believe or admit the truth. His lawyer tried everything to create doubt. He argued that Nerijus had worked in the barn for a long time, so his DNA would be everywhere. Then, in a desperate move, he suggested that Neregis's brother had planted the evidence to frame him. But science doesn't lie, and there were no means to escape the truth. Lisa's DNA was on his clothes. His DNA was on her body, her underwear, and the rope that strangled her. The trial lasted a month, and the entire country followed every update. The jury didn't take long to decide, and the verdict came as expected. Guilty. Nereus Bilovicius was sentenced to life in prison. Justice had been served. However, justice would never be enough for Lisa's family because no sentence, not even life itself, could ever bring their daughter home. Nereus Bilovicius was sentenced to life in prison and sent to one of Sweden's high-security prisons. Swedish prisons were designed for rehabilitation rather than punishment. This might have seemed like an easy sentence for most criminals, a life spent in a clean, structured facility with access to books, education, and work programs. But for a convicted child killer, even in the most civilized of prisons, there was no such thing as safety. Neregus tried to appeal his sentence, but the court rejected his request. Realizing he had no way out, he did something unexpected. He petitioned to be transferred to a prison in his home country of Lithuania. His reasons were unclear, but some believed he wanted to be closer to his family, while others suspected he knew he was not safe in Swedish prison. In early 2017, his request was granted, and he was transferred to Lithuania, where he would serve his life sentence. But Lithuanian prisons were nothing like the ones in Sweden. They were brutal, overcrowded, and dangerous, filled with hardened criminals who had no sympathy for men like him. And then, in August 2022, during a prison transfer, a group of inmates attacked him with a shank, stabbing him multiple times. He bled out before reaching the hospital. Some called it poetic justice, others karma. But one thing was sure: Nereus Bilovicius would never harm another person again. Lisa Holmes' murder didn't just devastate her family, it shook an entire country. Sweden, a nation known for its low crime rates and peaceful communities, was suddenly confronted with a crime so brutal, so senseless that it felt unimaginable. Her funeral took place 1 month after her murder. The small church where the ceremony was held could only accommodate a few hundred people, but it quickly became apparent that many more wanted to say goodbye. Organizers set up benches and large screens outside to make room for the overwhelming number of mourners, allowing thousands of people to witness the service. People traveled across Sweden, bringing flowers, candles, and handwritten notes. Strangers stood side by side with Lisa's friends and family, united in grief. Many had never met Lisa, but they felt like they knew her, a bright young girl with big dreams, taken far too soon. Her parents, shattered but strong, spoke about Lisa's kindness, ambition, and love for life. They thanked the community, the volunteers, the police, and every single person who had helped in the search. They refused to let Lisa be remembered only for the way she died, but for the beautiful, hopeful life she lived. Lisa Holmes' case became a turning point in Sweden. It led to more vigorous public safety discussions, calls for stricter background checks on migrant workers, and renewed efforts to support victims' families. But beyond the policy changes and legal discussions, Lisa's story left an even more powerful impression, a lasting impact on the hearts of those who would never forget her. Lisa's story touched the hearts of a nation, reminding us how one life can inspire change. But not all stories end with unity. Click on the next video to see how a girlfriend plotted to kill her boyfriend for an inheritance that didn't even exist, a shocking tale of lies, betrayal, and a plan that went fatally wrong.